Mic check. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. Peace. Golden timeline. Peace. Go Caddy the Black. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. Can y'all hear me? Peace. Peace. Trying to make sure my sound is coming through. If you can hear me, if anybody's out there listening right now, can you press one? If you can hear me. Oh, okay. Bet. All right. Thank y'all. So I've been trying to do this for past few days. And as per usual, I'm late on the transit, but it's still active. So I want to talk about this briefly. I got about 30 minutes. I got to go and pick my little ones up from school. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try it. So normally I would like to wait and give folks a chance to get in, but they have to go ahead and dance. So what I want to do is pull up the real time clock if I can get to it. I need to get over to my software and I need this thing to act right today. There we go. Okay. It's trying to act right, I think. I'm going to share my screen. Peace. Ole Miss Place. Okay. Let's see if I can share my screen. All right. So you all hopefully can see it now. This is the real time clock, and it is set for Grand Prairie, Texas, of course, because that's where I live. But that is non-consequential. It's just set for that because that's where I live. But what's most important are the placements and the aspects that are forming right now. And as I said, I'm late. So what we're gonna do is roll this clock back because I'm gonna talk about a transit that we've been in for a couple of days. So we'll roll it back to mm, we'll roll it back to the 14th, 13th. What's the day? The 15th. So we've been feeling this transit now probably since at least around the 10th. Let's see. No, let's say especially around the 12th of August. And the transit I'm talking about, of course, is Saturn down here, retrograde, and squaring Jupiter and Mars. There, and this aspect has been perfecting. It perfected, I think, yesterday, the 14th. Did it perfect? I want to say it did yesterday, but we're still in the uh we're very much within the energy right now because we're within the orb of relevance. And so I wanted to talk briefly about just some of the things I've noticed just in with my clients between readings and coaching. There's but first let me say this. I'm sorry. Thinking my mind's running. Let's just think about who the actors are in the play right now. We have Saturn. That's the wrong tool. We got Saturn. We have Jupiter. And we have Mars. And when we're talking about their orbits of the sun, this would be the farthest away relative to the three that we're looking at. Saturn. So we'll put one for Saturn. We'll put two for Jupiter because it's the next farthest. And then we have Mars, which is actually considered to be a personal planet. Jupiter and Saturn, transpersonal. So the funny thing about astrology is that the farther a planet is away, the stronger its influence is, which shows us that astrology has always been showing us what we would call quantum mechanics or quantum physics or whatever these terms we give where they come with this thing about non-locality where things that should not have an impact on each other are actually having an impact and an influence. And astrology has always demonstrated this because the farther out a planet is positioned, the stronger its impact. So, and peace, rhythm in the dark, peace, Shauna. I know I've been kind of AWOL, so we're gonna try to do this quickly. Um, Saturn is the strongest. That's why I'm wanting to show the relationship between them. So that means in any aspect that will be formed between these planets, Saturn would have the greater influence. Okay. Um, Jupiter is formidable, and then after Jupiter is Mars. Okay, so that's the basis first. Then we got just at a rudimentary level, how do these planets express? Like I always go back to in my little handout that I give out on the free handout on how to introduction to reading your own chart. I always say that planets are verbs, so they are acting. Okay. So what's the action of Saturn? Saturn is the action of form. And for something to form, it has to create limits. So Saturn naturally kind of coincides with the square, boxes things in. Now, not the square aspect, but the square as in a shape. Saturn boxes things in. Saturn causes tension. It limits things. Um, Saturn puts constraints. Saturn makes things uh, appear to be slow. Saturn is time, and time deals with uh, karma, and karma not necessarily in moral dilemma type of karma, just that, hey, this is done at this point, it naturally causes this effect over here. So it shows a relationship between 2 points in time, which gives us in astrology what we call an opposition. And the opposition is of the nature of Saturn. Okay. Um, so that's just some basic. Mars is, or we'll go Jupiter since it's next. Jupiter is expansive. It's gaseous. So it inflates things. It swells. It deals with our opinions, and we know how our opinions and perspectives can swell. And Jupiter deals with long range vision, which can also be a philosophy or what we think is the truth at that moment, or what is our perspective or higher learning. And also, abundance, which kind of goes along with the swelling. Abundance would mean there's a swelling of resources or food or anything. It spreads. It's abundant. That's the expansiveness of Jupiter. Mars is at the most basic level is action, forward action. Mars does not really understand reverse or looking back, or what in mythology would be Epimetheus. It would be Prometheus, going forward, um, and that going forward can be warlike. It's as an adventurous nature to Mars, forward thrusting. Mars is our ego. Mars is the seed. Mars is emergence. So now just take these basic little terms that I've broken out and think about them in juxtaposition, as in Mars and Jupiter, and their juxtaposition in conflict with a planet that has more power than them. And that power is expressed, it can feel, because it's more powerful, it can feel like jail cell type of energy. So right now, with this energy, with Saturn squaring Mars and Jupiter, it can produce these strong feelings of time running out. And I'm having people come talking about, uh, time is of the essence, and I gotta act on this now. But let's just look at the whole big picture. This is what I'm trying to get my people to do. Jupiter expands the energetic field of Mars. Mars takes the perspective of Jupiter and it wants to force it out. So there can be a lot of impatience here with Mars and Jupiter together. It can be um, this need for my opinion and my perspective to be acted upon. My identity. So this is a lot of ego energy, Mars and Jupiter. And that's not necessarily negative, but it can very much be negative, but it can be positive. It can be a correct being one having courage in one's convictions. That's Jupiter and Mars together. Not afraid to express your truth. On the flip side, forcing your opinion on people, you know, ready to go to war for what I believe in. And what I'm trying to caution my clients is that Jupiter is in detriment. So although it is strong and ready to express, it's in a realm where it could take time to study. So the other side is, instead of being in such a hurry to force our opinion, it can be a sharpness of the mind and expansiveness of the mind, and this just a time to consider and ponder and gather information and scholarship, and you know possibly a time for a new perspective to emerge. Jupiter in Gemini. And so then it shows how Saturn can actually be supporting this, because Saturn puts the brakes to a degree on the big idea, and that I got to go forth and do this. Um, there can be a lot of self-righteousness with Mars and Jupiter together, you know? And especially at this time with the political conversation going on, I got people telling me they're going to put their creative efforts, other things on hold right now, because I got to get to work on this. This is the biggest presidential election of our lifetime. And I'm listening like, for real? You're going to put all your actual gifts, you're going to put these projects on hold for this? And that's another expression of this aspect, because Saturn deals with politics. And so now we're feeling like I got to make my voice heard in the political realm, because I feel like Saturn, which is also government, I feel like I got to fight against this structure that's about to come in play, that's going to attempt to inhibit my personal freedom. Mars, personal. And Jupiter has a signature of freedom because expansiveness denotes freedom. You know, if something is not able to expand, it's like being confined, which is the opposite of being free. So we got all these things um that are at play here. And I'm just, so I'm gonna go down this list and just kind of touch on some things that might be coming up in different aspects of the psyche right now. A feeling of urgency, time is running out, which can cause impatience. Swelled sense of self, self-righteousness, causing friction with controlling forces. Three, a need to control the outcome so that my perspective wins. Four, the karma of obsessive and irresponsible behavior, because Mars can be a very irresponsible energy because it's the emerging sign in the zodiac because it rules the emerging sign of Aries. So Aries is considered to be the baby because it is what the head ruled by Aries emerges from the womb. Okay. Five, strong opinions and debates around religious beliefs and politics. Six, overstimulation of the desire body met with a reality check. Why the desire body? The desire body is said to be seated in the liver, and the liver has a connection with Venus and Mars because Venus and Mars deal with desire. Okay. And so there can be this strong animalistic push to express from the animal mind or the animal body. And if that is not upgraded, then those desires are all filtered through the animal nature. So this can be a thing at play. Seven, youthful ignorance versus the old curmudgeon. Youthful ignorance versus the old curmudgeon. And the old curmudgeon, of course, is Saturn. And this youthful ignorance is, we normally don't equate ignorance with Jupiter, but Jupiter can be naive, because it's so grandiose. And that grandiosity can create a degree of ignorance. We may ignore things because of the grandiose plan. And Mars can definitely denote a degree of ignorance because it means to go forward. And so we make sure we're clear about the word ignorance doesn't mean stupidity. The root of ignorance is ignore, which means to not pay attention to things that are around. Okay. Hyper aggressiveness brought to a halt. That's number 8. 9, a feeling that a powerful force is working to stifle your dreams/ambitions. I want to hang my hat right there for a quick second because um, it's important that to try to find a mid ground because um, Saturn can really feel at times like its goal is to stifle anything that brings you joy. But the thing about Saturn is that it requires and urges us towards maturity because you tend to mature as you endure. And Saturn requires endurance. And so as you endure, one of the rewards is that you mature. And as you mature, you then tend to reap the higher benefits of the shit that Saturn seems to put you through, making you feel restricted, making you feel stifled, making you feel like some controlling iron fist is trying to come down on you. You know that the system is working against you. But think about it. It very, very well could be. But what can you do within the system? Like that old saying, don't do the time, don't do the time, don't let the time do you. When we were here about people going to prison and how some particular people would go to prison and they would clean themselves up and they would get inside that library and start reading, get their GED, may earn a bachelor's or a master's, and they come out and it's just this completely transformed person. You know, that is a representation of utilizing time or the stillness of time. Think about Saturn. Saturn rules the time where in the northern hemisphere where the earth is in contraction. The earth is pulling its essence back. It's not giving. That's why the key word for Capricorn is I take, because the earth is taking its fire back. Its essence is pulling it back. Why? Because it has to pull its essence back in order to have something to give when it moves, when we have the crossing of the vernal equinox, when the earth is starting to wake back up. But if it doesn't die and have dormancy, it has nothing to give. So Saturn feels like it's taking from us. But if we utilize it correctly, Saturn is giving us time to develop that grand idea, Jupiter, and all of that youthful energy to just go and take a gamble. Mars, Saturn's here and squaring and forcing us to uh, batten the hatches and bear down and look at all of the minor details, especially given the fact that Jupiter and Mars are answering to a retrograde Mercury, because Jupiter and Mars are in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, which is retrograde. Okay. And it's retrograde in Virgo. So this really ain't the time for just go, 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 go. Saturn is really um ultimately working in the favor of whatever it is you're working on. You got cooking, you know, Saturn is actually working in the favor of it, because wherever it's cooking at, it's answering to a planet that's retrograde anyway. This is like going back over detail time. This is restructuring. And you know, you think about Saturn is, I think this is the last time Saturn moves retrograde before it I'm not sure. Let me make sure. I thought I looked one time uh um and saw that I think Saturn, when it goes retrograde, I know when Neptune stations direct, it's going it's gonna continue direct all the way into Aries. And I want to say, so here we are. No, Saturn has one more retrograde. No, 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 no. No, I'm wrong. No, this is it. Saturn will station direct in November. And after that, Saturn's going to for Saturn. Now, Saturn's slow, but for Saturn, it's going to be zooming, because from November, Saturn is going to move from 12 degrees stationing direct mid second week in November. And from that, by the time we get to May, Saturn will make its ingress into Aries. Now, it will eventually go back into Pisces, I think, one more time. But this current retrograde, when it ends, it takes us all the way up into the first ingress of Saturn into Aries. So it's like there's a strong signature here around finishing things up. And you may feel yourself feeling worry right now. Worry. And I wish I had more time to expound on this, because there's a great book by Fred Allen Wolf called mind into matter. And he has this term called thinking about thinking. And when we worry, we're thinking about another timeline, okay, which actually freezes time, you know? And but when we're actually thinking freely, it moves time. Why? Because free thought, you become time when you think, which is why whenever you're engrossed in something you really love doing, time flies. So that's another thing to keep in mind right now, to not be engulfed by worry, to still remain. So it's like, you got to take in, this is how we mitigate our aspect. You got to take in the influence of Saturn, the positive influence of Saturn, which is ultimately is patience and endurance. If we just want to whittle it down to its brass tacks, patience and endurance with Saturn. But that worry shit with Saturn and Pisces that can come about, throw that shit in the garbage, because we cannot drown out the vision of Jupiter and the youthful forward thrust of Mars by fully delving into the spirit of worry. Okay. So each one of us, is our job to mitigate between those two. And that's where we try to find a midpoint. How can I be responsible, mature, but I'm not about to give into and throw my vision away, because that's part of what Saturn is testing. The validity of your vision, the solidity of your efforts. Can you hold, anybody can have big ideas. Anybody can start some shit, but can you endure and finish? And I think that's been a recurring theme of this year. Um, but become time, Saturn, Chronos, time. Become the time, you know, like they say, do the time, don't let the time do you. We say all these little things, and a lot of times they have deeper metaphysical um principles hidden within them. Okay, so I know this is not my typical, but I want to just real quick and see what y'all saying before I get off. Just curious, this is Shauna, just curious, when you finish, do retrograde planets in the natal chart intensify aspects? Yes, but that's what a retrograde is. It is the planet's energy is intensified. It's like the noise or the sound that the planet emits is louder when it's retrograde. Okay. Um, but here's the thing. I was born under Mercury retrograde. I feel like, I have little bouts of things with Mercury retrograde when it's the transiting Mercury, but it doesn't really just throw my world completely out of whack. I might have some things. It's kind of the things around me. I notice more things around me, like I swear, I mean, yesterday I'm driving, this woman's in front of me, and I wanna, if I had, I swear, if I could throw something and it not be wrong, you know. So I go around her, and the woman's mouth is wide open and she just looks completely lost. I swear, I keep driving by people, and people look like they're just in a complete zombie state, you know. And I think that's just period, but I think the retrograde magnifies that. But if you are born under a retrograde, when that planet is moves retrograde, it shouldn't be such a shock to you, because you were born under, it's almost like a minor debility for the planet to be in retrograde phase when you're born. So it gives you the ability to almost function outside of the box, because you were born with that. If you were born blind, it's a difference between being born that way and you go blind at a certain point in your life. Can you imagine if you've been seeing all your life, all of a sudden you lose your eyesight? It's chaos. But if you were born that way, and somebody else suddenly loses their sight, they're like, man, it's all right. Take this stick and we hear sounds and just you listen and you'll find your way. So I think that's kind of, and I'm giving a very simplified answer, but that's one way, with a planet, just a Reader's Digest approach to planet being retrograde relative to especially Mercury, but we got a lot. We got Pluto retrograde, and it's a different uh Mercury is a personal planet. The outer planets retrograde are a little different. um there's a stronger pull at the soul level, I feel, with the planets retrograde, so Pluto, Neptune, and we could even add Uranus in on that. Maybe we can come back and talk about that another time when I got it's because it's 2 o'clock. I'm gonna have to. Okay, real quick. Golden timeline. My natal Mars and detriment in Taurus can be considered a positive. Uh, Definitely. I mean, I always use that reference to the what you call them, uh, the Super Mario movie. He never knows when to quit. I think that's Mars and Taurus. My Saturn and Scorpio retrograde opposite my Sun in Taurus. I've always disliked Saturn, but this is making me look at it differently. And that's the point ultimately of an opposition. What do you say? Yeah, opposition is to help you see the other side of things. That's the so Saturn is which is why Saturn is one of the reasons why Saturn is exalted in Libra, the sign of relationship, because Saturn gives us the aspect of relationship, the opposition, creates this tension so we can see both sides of the spectrum. Okay, okay, da 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 da. Da. Trumpet said, I have natal Mercury retrograde in 12th house Gemini. I have too much going on in. Oh, yeah, yeah. Indeed. Yes. Yes. Messages from beyond. Indeed. Da-da-da. You're most welcome, Pandora. Da-da-da. Mars and Taurus means you don't know when to quit. Interesting. Say makes perfect sense. Okay, y'all. So I know this is mad quick, but like I said, I got to go and get my little ones, and I don't want to be parked way out on the street. I want to get in line. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. I know this was definitely impromptu as always, but I've been wanting to do this, but it is what it is. But I shall be back with more videos. My babies are back in school, so I'm getting back on my regimen. Um, as always, I got my bundle available on my site, 720astrology.com. The classes, the classes, the classes, the classes. I think the classes are dope. I got some intelligent people who have gathered, and we have deep, intelligent conversations. And if you uh, adore and love conversations of depth, then it's somewhere that you need to be. For readings, host of them on my site, my book, everything. Go to 720 Astrology and just stay there for a while and enjoy yourself. But as always, know the stars to know yourself. Peace.